Oh, here we go. Turn up the volume. Turn up the volume. Find wherever the screen is where things are supposed to be happening, and see how you're doing. That's what we're trying to do here. Because in theory, we're doing this thing live, baby. We're out. We're going. We're making it happen. In theory, we're here. All right. You know what? I think it might be working, so I can say hi. Good morning. Welcome to the live taping of Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Thank you very much for joining me today. Topic of conversation is, hey, did you see Spotify's got a new public chart? Ooh, we're terribly excited about it. Yeah, well, you know me. I'm bringing up some concepts around it that you might think about it a little bit different. Anyhow, we're going to talk about charts, rankings, and podcasting, all of that kind of stuff, but that's not going to happen for another 3 minutes or so because, that's kind of the way things work. And hola, Gene. Nice to see you watching me on the LinkedIn. I'm also on the YouTubes and the Twitters and the Facebook Lives right now. For the brand new people, hi. You are watching a live taping. This is not the podcast itself. This is me warming up, having a tea. British accent is terrible, isn't it? Before I begin, which loosens up the vocal folds and all of that from what I understand. Who knows? The live stream, you're watching the behind-the-scenes stuff. In about 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to get to the main content of the show, which is me talking about Spotify's new charts and what it means for all of us in the podcasting world. And some people like to watch me do this live, and I appreciate it when they watch me do it live, like Gene, for that matter. But if you say, I just want the meat, Evo, great. Podcast Pontifications is where you want to be. This edited version of the audio, as well as a completely rewritten article, will be posted at Podcast Pontifications in exactly 2 hours and 59 minutes. I just looked at the clock. It's 7:01 my time. By 10 o'clock. The content is available over there. And for a few people who have decided they wanted it emailed to them, they'll get an email at 10 o'clock that says, here's the audio file, and this is the article. You can just read it right there in your inbox. It's called Podcast Pontifications in your inbox, and you get there at the bottom the bottom of every page at podcastpontifications.com. Just switched over to a new service provider for that. I'm using Ghost now. Seems to be working out pretty well. I like the interface. Still not exactly what I want it to be, but it's pretty darn close. So I'm going to be happy with that for a while. Maybe I'll do some more tinkering, but it doesn't matter. Once you're subscribed, I'll migrate you to wherever. And of course, it's free to read and watch and listen to and all that kind of fun stuff. Right. So that's the kind of the preamble of what's going on with the show. Now you get the concept, and so now it's time to dig into Spotify. If you have comments, I can actually see most comments coming in now. I'm using restream.io is the way to push it out to all the different platforms, and they make a nice little app that rolls it in there. So if you do leave me a comment, I will see it. I'm about to start the actual real show content. Well, once I do this, hang on. Sorry, throat clear. So when I actually am in monologue mode, I will not be looking at the chat. Because, that's what you do when you're doing a live stream. And I'm using a live stream, but it's more of a behind the scenes. This is the live stuff now. Anyhow, if you leave a comment for me, have a question for me about the things I'm about to say, put it in the chat, because I will come back and check the chat at the end of the little episode, which only takes me about 9 minutes or so. It's probably even less, even though I say every time I say it's going to take less time today than usual, it winds up taking more. So you'd think I'd be smarter than that, but I'm still not. Okay, let me adjust my screen. There's that. I can see the chat window. I can see my face. I can see your faces. Well, I can't see your faces. Okay, it begins by me saying, darn it, this cold open, which is, the most popular podcasts on Spotify are now on public display. Getting your show ranked there could be a huge boon. But are you willing to pay the steep price? Getting your show ranked there on that page. There we go. All right. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it right now. Let's move this up so I have a little bit more room on the page. Here we go. The most popular podcasts on Spotify are now on public display. Getting your show listed on that page could be a huge boon, but are you willing to pay the steep price? Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Spotify has now made their podcast ranking charts available via a public web page. It's the same data that you've been able to access before by logging into the app or on your mobile device, and I think on your desktop as well. But it no longer requires you to be logged into that device or that system or that service. It's now on public display. You just go to a website, which of course will be linked in the episode details here. Now, it's a pretty clear and very bold push by Spotify, who has been very clear and very bold in their push into podcasting since 2019, further solidifying themselves as the authority in podcasting. This is the public available ranking. That's what they want all of us to buy into. And if not us, that's what they want the general public to buy into. We are the arbiters of what is top and most popular. So should you and me, and every other podcaster out there, the working podcaster, should we play along with this? Well, maybe. Let's talk about the way this chart works. Charting is always kind of a gray box. We know a little bit about what goes into the ranking factors and algorithms, but not everything. According to Spotify, they've given us some good data, or good information, I should say. They say that getting a show ranked, or also an episode, they do top episodes as well, getting a show and or episode ranked is basically a factor of two things. One, how many followers that show has on Spotify. And number two, the number of times somebody plays an episode or that episode of that particular show. But now, so again, that's size of the audience and play activity. But let me repeat, only on Spotify. Number of followers of that show on Spotify, number of plays through the Spotify app. Spotify only knows Spotify data. They know a lot of Spotify data, but it's only their people, only Spotify users influence the Spotify podcast ranking charts. Now, that's some 350 million people who use Spotify on a regular basis. Only about 25% of those are avid listeners to podcasts, or even at all listeners to podcasts, based on some info Spotify gave us a few months ago. So 25%, 350, that's around 80 million people. So that's a pretty large sample size. That's a lot of people listening. And because it's such a large sample size, that's why when you look at Spotify's top podcast rankings and compare them to Apple's top rankings, they're fairly close. I didn't see any outliers. I didn't spend a lot of time digging, but they looked like the same shows were there, just in different positions, plus or minus 5 or 6. They were all around the same thing. Broadly speaking, same as Apple charts. So they're probably as accurate as Apple's charts, which also, by the way, only track activity done through Apple Podcasts. All right. But there's clearly what the podcast charts want us to do is two things. Push hard to get there. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, push hard to get there because you're going to get a whole lot more people downloading a show if you're on these charts. And I don't know that I can argue for or against that, but I just want to say that the person that these charts serve first and foremost, is Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or anybody else who comes along and makes a ranking. The primary benefactor of these ranking charts are the organizations doing the ranking themselves. And that's very clear. That's not me going, oh, what an amazing thing. Look, the way you get better rankings is by convincing people to follow you and listen to your show on that platform. That's it. It's the only way you can do it. So clearly, the more you push to get on top of that ranking, that means you're causing more people to listen to you on that device and follow you on that particular app and service. That's what they want you to do. It's them. They are the benefactors, not necessarily you. Maybe if you make it to the charts, but it's the benefactors of millions of podcasters. We have millions, well, more than 1 million podcasters, let's say, telling all other friends, oh my God, switch, start listening on this app. Big deal for that app. Not so much a big deal for that podcaster. I have 2 predictions that are going to come out of this new Spotify ranking. Well, I guess 3. Number 1 is they're not going to be the last one. Expect lots of different app services, apps, directories to come out with their top rankings, because why not? It benefits them, like I said. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is we'll see chart monitoring services. We already have chart monitoring services. They are now going to incorporate Spotify's data, so you can subscribe via email and get a notification every day that your podcast goes up and down the charts, or when it finally makes an appearance on the chart, if it ever makes an appearance on the chart. There will be services out there scrape this page and report back to you, the podcaster, how you're doing. That's an easy guess. Number 3 prediction is maybe by the weekend, we'll start getting spam emails from people saying, I can get you to the top of the charts in Spotify. That's what happens when you have rankings. There are people out there, unscrupulous people out there, who will find ways to manipulate it. And this one's relatively easy to manipulate. Make an account, attach it to a SIM card in a country that has really cheap phones and really cheap data rates to do various things. And we've seen it before with Apple Podcasts. We'll see it again with Spotify. We're going to see people out there gaming the system. So expect some change on those charts as gamers jump in the system. Anyhow, what does all this mean for the average podcaster? Or not just the average podcaster, 95% of podcasters. I don't think it means all that much, in all honesty. You got to remember, these lists are top level only, and they're dominated by shows that have big followings already on Spotify. That's a lot of work to bust through that. I'm talking several tens of thousands of dollars worth of a marketing plan. If you've got a marketing plan for your podcast that includes several tens of thousands of dollars to promote your podcast, then you should absolutely get in touch with Spotify. They would love to help you break into the ranks, because when you spend all that money, you're going to tell people, listen to the show on Spotify. Doing branding for them, of course they'll spend money. Apple will do the exact same thing. Remember, these charts benefit the chart makers more than anyone else. The only thing you might consider is where Spotify shows up in your listing on your website of follow the show on these platforms, or maybe you still say subscribe to the show on these platforms. Where does Spotify show up? Now, I moved Spotify to the first place earlier this year. Last year? I don't remember. Go to podcastpontifications.com and you see the list of all the places you can subscribe. I've got Spotify listed first. Because of the moves they're making into the space, they're clearly trying to dominate. I wanted to make sure that I get that attention first and foremost. Not really promoting them, but just having it there as the first option, just in case somebody doesn't recognize the other icons on the page. So here's an idea for you. Do the same thing, but not to me. Visit the homepage of a friend of yours or in podcasting, or somebody you want to be a friend of yours in podcasting. Visit their homepage and see where they list the Spotify follow/subscribe/listen button. And then send them a link to this episode and say, here's why it's important for that to be first. Maybe you'll become that person's new best friend. Converse amongst yourselves about the best way to promote without doing that much promotion for Spotify. It's extending the olive branch. Always a nice thing to do. And if you like the ideas that I had to say here on the program, please go to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra and slide a virtual coffee my way. That's always nice. No shows on Friday from me, so you enjoy your weekend, and I shall be back on Monday with yet another podcast, Pontifications. Cheers. I've stopped recording, and once again, I said, short episode, here we go, 9 friggin' minutes long. Hi, Arlen, good morning. Nice to see you here as well. So that was it, all done. If you missed it, sure, you can go back and redo the replay, but if you want to, or you could just go to podcastpontifications.com, because that's where all of this will be, well, all of the edited stuff not the live streamy stuff, but the edited down version. Just the meat will be at podcastpontifications.com in about 2 hours and 45 minutes from now. Because that's what I'm going to start doing right now. I'm going to take every word that I just said, get a rough transcript of it. I'm going to rewrite every single word to make it make sense in written form. That and the audio and the transcript will all be available by 10 o'clock. You're going to love it. It's all up there and great. Hi, Betty. Nice to see you. Welcome to the party as always. So that's it. Hope you all have a wonderful Thursday. Bust into those Spotify charts, I guess, if you want to. Totally up to you. But, don't spend your money marketing from Spotify. Probably not the best idea in the world. All right, gang. Have a lovely one. I'll see you next time. Bye.